Hi fellow YouTubers, thanks for coming back to the channel, or if this is your first time, please subscribe on the icon in the bottom corner. Your subscriptions are really appreciated, and by growing my channel this allows me to produce more content and hopefully to a better quality. So thank you for your support, and here's to the next video. Today I'm going to go back to a rules review. This time another Osprey Blue Book production. It's been out a little while now, but it's the first time I've had a chance to have a good look through. Rebels and Patriots. So one of the blue Osprey Wargame rule sets. This one's by Michael Leck and Dan Mersey. Both have pedigree in rule writing. Whether that be through Pikeman's Lament, Men Would Be Kings, and of course the Lion Rampant series. This is officially an extension of the Lion Rampant series, although with some quite significant differences. What I like about this is that it reminds me, yes, of Lion Rampant. It has an element of that kind of saga, sharp practice to kind of feel to it, where you're dealing with companies, units slightly bigger than skirmish but smaller than a normal kind of battalion level game. So you're probably looking at somewhere around 40 to 60 models per side. And what I wanted to do today was just share some of my thoughts around that, and the things that I like, and the things that maybe could be, in my view, perhaps improved. Typical of Osprey, it's 64 pages. The actual rules themselves are only about half of that, 32 pages. And again, as I've said on a number of reviews under this series, you're getting an awful lot of bang for your buck. This is an excellent value for money production. You've got some great artwork in there from Peter Dennis, as always, which makes you just want to read through, really. The artwork actually is pretty stunning. There's some example playthrough diagrams. It's very nicely set out. So you've got a contents page at the beginning, and the contents are basically broken down into 5 elements. So you've got the introduction, mustering your company, the battle rules themselves, and then the other 32 pages of the book are really all scenarios and example points lists for forces. Now I know obviously points is controversial with a number of gamers, but for this style of game, like it does with Saga and games like that, I think it works really well. And what it does is give you some balance to a game at this level, to ensure that one side hasn't got too much of an advantage over another. So I haven't got a problem with that. It's designed to be played on a 4x4 foot table, but I'm sure it can be played on 4x3 or a 6x4, whatever you've got available at home or at your local club. And for me, the resemblance to sharp practice is around very much the big men focus. So the leaders play a very integral part in this game, which is only right when you're dealing with this sort of scale. You know, the leaders will encourage the men. They'll get the men to do daring feats. They'll rally the men. They'll get the men to follow them. Likewise, they could have traits, which I'll get onto in a moment, that could work to their disadvantage, or the player's disadvantage. So I like that. There's also the opportunity to grow and evolve the character, if that's something you want to do. So if you want to follow a kind of campaign approach, you can develop your leader through a number of skirmishes stroke battles, which again is a nice touch, something not everyone will want to do, but for others that's something they can do. So again, this appeals to a lot of tastes. Basing theme, ideally individually, although for those that have already got pre-based armies, having them on bases is absolutely fine. It's just a little bit of adaptation using tokens, counters, whatever, which I probably would need to do that myself, but I haven't got a problem with that. So again, it's very, very flexible. So the officers, the big men, they will have traits. They'll start off with 1 or 2 depending on how good they are, and they could be good or bad traits, and they may gain more traits as they develop as a character. They have a tactical value, so how they can influence what's going on around them, orders, etc, etc. And they also gain honor after each scenario, which again is a kind of nice development of the characters themselves. So you then choose your units to go around the leader depending on the theme and the period that you're playing. Again, a very nice element of this is it's called Rebels and Patriots, which makes you think automatically American War of Independence, or it did me, but actually it covers a very wide theatre of topics and eras, which again I'll relay before the end of the video. So when mustering your company, as they call it, you've got all the usual kind of choices that you would expect once you've got your officer in place. So you've got your standard kind of infantry types, line, light, shock, skirmishes, natives, artillery, and then you've got your cavalry types, again light, shock. So fairly standard kind of unit types as you would expect. When you get into section 3, which is all about the kind of battle rules, I suppose there's nothing massively different there to what you would expect in this kind of game. Certainly those who've played the Rampant series will see nothing massively different, but there is some dynamics in there which are quite interesting. So all units have the opportunity to activate each turn. So my initial thought when I read that was, there's no friction, there's no kind of nothing built in there that stops you being able to do everything that you want to do. But actually that's wrong, because when you want to activate a unit, you've got to roll to see whether you can activate them or give them that order, and a lot of outside influences will impact on whether they can do that or not. So I like that, because it means you won't get to do everything you want to do every time, and you've also got to pick the action you want to give that unit, and you can only do one. So you can move, you can attack, you can fire, fairly standard things. But you can also choose to skirmish, you can form close order, you can volley fire, and you can rally. So you can quickly see from that, if you want to basically put a devastating volley fire into an enemy unit, you're going to have to get yourself into close order first. That could be a couple of activations before you're able to do that, and so you need to think ahead and plan ahead the deployment of your units, how you use them to best effect. So I quite like that. I also like the fact that when you're doing certain rolls, you could be rolling 1 or 2 dice. Double ones are bad in this game, and double sixes are good in this game, and they can lead to a number of kind of events that kind of jump into the battle. And again, I like that it adds that little, just that little outside element of uncertainty, the fog of war. Things happen that you're not expecting. You know, a plan only lasts to first contact with the enemy. That's so true. So a couple of really nice little dynamics in there. You've got your standard kind of morale built into it with disorder, broken, and routes, and you have markers for those. But again, I'm glad there is a morale element in there. Again, I think that's important. But outside of that, it's your fairly standard kind of move combat dynamics. But I say some of those little elements, and of course, obviously the input of your officer with his traits and his tactical values can have a really good impact on those parts of the rules that we're dealing with here. Okay, so that's the game. The rest of the book, as I say, is filled up with, you could call it fluff, but I think actually it's really compulsive reading. You've got 12 scenarios which could be adapted to all sorts of periods, and again, brilliant scenarios. A lot of them are really unusual, could be used for other war game sets as well. You know, you get a breakdown of the map, the forces, the kind of scenario, and I think that's really good. You very seldom see 12 scenarios even in the big expensive published rule sets, let alone in an Osprey one. So I think again you're getting a lot of bang for your buck there, and as I say, can be adapted to a number of other rule sets if that's your preference. Section 5, say, covers the points company value. You generally work into 24 points. That will buy you a number of things. I'm not again gonna go through that on the video because you can buy the set and have a look at it yourselves. But what stood out for me was the sheer quantity of periods that you can encompass into this rule set. So you got lists in there for French Indian Wars, American War of Independence, you've got Mexican War of Independence, you've got the Northwest, I think it was individual wars, you've got War of 1812, the Texas Revolution, Canada's Patriots Rebellion, the Mexican-American War, the Cortina Wars, the American Civil War, Mexican Adventures, the French intervention in Mexico, the British intervention in North America, and the Fenian raids. So you've got an awful lot of choice. Some of those I know very, very little about, so that's given me some interest to go and find out a little bit more. So it's quite nice to see some obscure, less played periods included in there to kind of try and bring some new interest of some new periods into the hobby. So that's really, really good. And then finally at the back you've got rosters where you can literally write out your list. You can have that on the table with you, and that's really helpful. You can break things down as much as you want, and all of that is comprised in a 64-page book. So general thoughts are, I think it's another gold star production in terms of this series. I've got a lot of them now. I often buy them even if I don't play the periods, because if it's something I'm interested in, I know for very little outlay you're getting a very readable book, and it does generate some interest in new periods. I think Osprey are really doing well with these series. They're producing some really good quality stuff, and of course when you've got people like Michael Leck and Daniel Mersey, you know there's going to be a certain level of quality in there with the artwork, as I say, from Peter Dennis as well. So I would give it a big thumbs up. Downside, probably really the only downside is if you don't like this style of game. You know, I still like larger games in smaller scales, but that doesn't mean that I don't mind getting out my bigger troops, my 28 mils or whatever, and having a little skirmish game with some smaller unit sizes from time to time, and this one will definitely be one that I will be getting out and having a look at. So hope you've enjoyed this short video. That's Rebels and Patriots by Osprey Wargames. As I say, please, if this is your first time to the channel, please subscribe, have a look at my other videos. I try and put some content out on a regular basis and really appreciate your support. Thank you.